Hi. Well, today's lecture is a continuation of our discussion of the Luach HaIvri. I've called it the Moon's Journey because we're going to discuss today how the moon visibly lags behind the sun every day a little bit more. There's an accumulated lag on the very first day when the sun sets. When I say the first day, I mean the first day of the new moon. The new moon can't be seen because it sits on the horizon together with the setting sun. And on the next day when the sun goes down, the moon lags behind a little bit. So we're going to look into that a little bit today. But first let's start off with some verses. The first verse is from Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, Aleph Yud Daled. Vayomer Elohim yehi morot b'ki hashamayim l'havdil ben hayom u'ben halayla v'hayu la'otot mo'adim u'yamim v'shanim. And God said, let there be luminaries in the sky to separate between day and night, and they will be for signs. I don't know exactly what it means by signs. We say that Shabbat is an ot hi b'nei u'vein b'nei Yisrael, but another possibility, maybe it's signs for navigation. Ula mo'adim, to set the holidays with Rosh Chodesh, u'liyamim v'shanim, and for days and for years. And it's interesting that we do see in the Torah that years are significant for the Jewish people. Because the Torah was written for the Jewish people. And the second verse is found in Shmot, the 12th chapter, second verse, Yud Bet Bet, where God is speaking to Moshe right before the Exodus from Egypt. And he says that on this momentous occasion, the month in which this Yetziat Mitzrayim, this Exodus takes place, is the first of all months in your calendar. HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodeshim v'yishodhu lachem l'chodshei hashana. This month is the first of your calendar. And so we see from that the Jewish people have a lunar calendar. What exactly is a Chodesh is defined by Rambam, Maimonides. And I'll just use the term Rambam in place of Maimonides. In his Mishnah Torah, Laws of the Sanctification of the New Moon, Hilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, the first chapter. Halacha Aleph, first law, Chodshei Hashanah him Chodshei HaLevana. In Judaism, the months of the year are lunar months. Shnei Amaris, it's written, Olat Chodesh B'Chodsho. You bring the offering of each month at the renewal of the month. Okay, and the only types of months that get renewed are lunar months, because that's where you see the renewal of the light of the crescent of the moon. Okay, you don't see that in the solar year. V'ne'amar, it also says, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodeshim. This renewal, this month, is the first of all the renewals. So whenever you use the term Chodesh, you are talking about a lunar month, because the word Chodesh comes from the word Chadash, which means something new. Something new means something that wasn't there before, and we're talking about the waxing crescent. Kach amru chachamim, as our sages said, Herelo HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe v'amar ha'nevuah demut l'vana, that HaKadosh, the Holy One, blessed be He, showed to Moshe an image of the moon. V'amar lo kazer reva kadesh, and he says, when you see this, that's what you need in order to sanctify the Rosh Chodesh. Bahashanim shanu machashvim, and the years that we calculate, v'im shnei hachama, our solar years. Now, from where do we know that we're supposed to keep our eyes, that the Judaism is supposed to keep their eyes on solar years? Shnei Amaris, it's written, Shamor et Chodesh Ha'aviv. You shall observe this holiday of Pesach in the spring month. Well, in order for there to be a spring month, knowing that the seasons are a function of the solar year, that means we have to figure out some way to correlate our lunar year, our lunar calendar, with the solar year. Halacha Gimel. Halavana nisteret b'chol chodesh v'chodesh ve'ena niret kamo shnei yamim o pachot yoter ma'at. Once a month, the moon becomes non-visible. I'm not saying invisible. The moon doesn't become invisible. It just means you can't see it. It gets covered up for approximately 2 days, more or less. Kamo yom echad kodim shetibak b'shemesh b'sof hachodesh. 1 day before lunar conjunction, where the moon is setting right before the sun, but the moon is so close to the sun that you cannot see the waning crescent of the old month. And for about a day after lunar conjunction, when the sun is setting at night, that the moon is pretty much on the same plane with the sun, and you cannot see the crescent in the western time in the evening. In the night that the moon becomes visible after its disappearance, that is the beginning of the new month. And you count from that day and including that day 29 days. That first day is the Rosh Chodesh. And then after you finish 20 days, in other words, you count 29 full days, including that first day, then that night is called the 30th night, and if the moon is seen that night, Yom Shloshim Rosh Chodesh. Then that 30th day from the last moled will be Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the next month. V'im lo yira'eh, and if the moon is not seen, Yeh Rosh Chodesh Yom Echad U'Shloshim. Then Rosh Chodesh will be the next day, the 31st day from the previous moled. V'yeh Yom Shloshim Chodesh Avar. And then the 30th day will still be part of the passing month, the previous month. Now, if you don't see the moon on the night of the 30, nobody is asked, no witnesses are asked to see the moon on the 31st night. Whether the moon is seen on the 31st night or not, or whether the moon is, for sure, if the moon is seen on the 30th night, then you're not going to send anybody out to look at it on the 31st night. Because you don't have a lunar month any more than 30 days. So if the moon was not seen on the night of the 30th, then automatically, without any further need for witnesses, the month is 30 days long, and then the 31st day is the first day of the next month. Halacha Dalet. Chodesh Yeh Tishav Yisrael Yom V'yera HaYoreach B'leil Shloshim. A month which is 29 days, and the moon is seen on the night of the 30th, at the end of 29 days, Nikra Chodesh Chaser. It's called a deficient month because it only has 29 days. And we know that the time passing from moled to moled is, don't forget, 29 and a half days. Or Tashzak, it's Tashzak Halakim, 29 days, 12 hours, and 793 Halakim. Remember that? So it's called Chodesh Chaser. It's deficient because you still have that half a day. And if the moon is not seen on the night of the 30th, and so that month becomes a 30-day month, it's called a leap month or a full month. And if the moon is seen on the night of the 30th, it's called a Yareach Shenera Bizmano, a moon that was seen in its right time. And if it was seen on the night of the 31st, and wasn't seen on the 30th, a moon that was seen on the night of its leap. Even though, as we said before, you don't specifically send anybody out to go look for it. But if you see it, it's called Yareach Shenera B'leili Buro. Now we can better understand the Rambam if we try to imagine two types of movement. One is the orbit or the revolution of the monthly revolution of the moon around the earth. The moon makes one orbit of the earth a month. And the second movement is the rotation of the earth on its axis daily in 24 hours. Now, even though the first day of the moled is generally, or often, not the first day of the Chodesh, for our example, let's presume that moled day is the first day of the month. It'll just make our calculations a little bit easier. And let's pick a time close to sunset, let's say about 6:30 in the evening. And on that first day, since it's Moled Day, you're not going to be able to see the crescent of the new moon. Because as you see the picture on page 3, the moon is on the same plane with the sun, and the crescent is so thin that the light of the sun at sunset overpowers the light of the crescent, and you're unable to see it. And here's a little schematic at the top of the page. See the sun, the earth, the moon right in between. You're unable to see anything from the luminous side. But one day passes and we go look for the moon, also at the same time of day, 6:30 at night, just about when the sun is setting. And we do sight the moon on the second night, and it's higher in the sky over the western horizon than the sun. It's no longer on the same plane with the sun. Take a look at the picture. The sun is down here, and the moon is up a little bit, and the crescent is slightly wider. You go another day. It's now the 3rd of the month. Same time of day. The moon continues to lag, and it will set approximately 100 minutes after sunset. You see that the moon is higher in the sky. If you take a look at the graph, it's approximately 17 degrees above the western horizon. Another 4 days pass. The date is now the 7th of the month. 1/4 of the month has passed. If we look for the moon at sunset, we will find it high in the sky, close to the zenith. It will set 6 hours after the sun and look like this. You'll see how the moon looks. I took this off the program Stellarium. It's a quarter moon. And you see the sun is setting. In this other picture, the sun is setting. The moon is very high in the sky on the 7th of the month. And then, after another week, and 14 days of the month have passed, we're in the middle of the month. At this point, the moon is full. It's on the opposite side of the earth. See on this little schematic, you have the earth in the center, sun on one side, and the moon on the other side. And you have, as the sun sets, is when the moon is rising. So, in order to figure out this lag of how great is the lag and how long it takes for this lag, for this moon now to set, let's do a little math. And it's very straightforward math, very simple math. Okay, we know why the moon lags behind the sun. And that is because the moon does its monthly orbit around the earth. Okay? But can we figure it out exactly? Let's try. And the first thing we'll do is let's take out one variable, and that's the Earth's rotation. Let's stop the Earth's rotation and pretend we're standing and the sun is just at sunset, and we stop, shevish begivon don't, and we don't allow the sun to set. And it's on the first day of the month, so the moon is right there at the horizon with the sun. And our watch keeps going, so our watch keeps goes ahead 24 hours, and we wait there for 24 hours on our watch. The sun is not setting. We look in the sky and we notice that the moon is moving up in the sky. It's moving in an eastern direction because we stopped the setting of the moon. So over the next 24 hours, we will watch as the moon slowly crawls up the sky, such that at 6:30 on the second night, the sun is still going to be sitting in its place because we stopped the rotation of the earth, but the moon is going to be higher. The moon is going to be higher in the sky. In terms of degrees of its orbit, how far did it go? Well, a circle, an orbit, is, let's say, 360 degrees. 360 degrees. And the moon, every day of the month, moves 1/30th of its orbit. So 360 degrees divided by 30 is 12 degrees per day. So we should be able to calculate accurately that at 24 hours later, at 6:30 on the second night, the moon, which was at the horizon on the first day, should now be 12 degrees above the horizon. Let's go to page 6. Let's say 2 more days pass. Same thing. The sun is still sitting there. We stop the rotation. Okay. The moon is crawling up on the western sky, going towards the east or going towards the zenith. So 12 degrees times 3 days is 36 degrees. So on the 3rd of the month, the moon will be 36 degrees above the western horizon. Take a look at the schematic. After 7 days, it's 7 times 12, or 84 degrees. Now you're seeing why it's close to the zenith. But now comes the next question. Okay, we were able to isolate the moon as it orbits around the earth. We were able to stop the rotation and stand and look at the moon as it orbits the earth. Now let's start the rotation again. How long is it going to take the moon to move 12 degrees? Let's go back to, let's say, the second day of the month. The first day of the month, it's even with the sun. The second day, it's 12 degrees above the western horizon. How long is it going to take in time for the moon to set? Well, considering the fact that the Earth rotates once in 24 hours, and in 24 hours, let's see, there are 1,440 minutes, because it's 24 times 60. So that's 1,000. So in 1,440 minutes, the Earth rotates on its axis 360 degrees. So if you divide 1,440 by 360, you have the Earth rotating at approximately 1 degree every 4 minutes. So you have 1,440 minutes divided 360 degrees is about 1 degree every 4 minutes. Well, if the moon is now, from the first to the second day, 12 degrees higher in the sky, well, 12 times 4 minutes, okay, 12 degrees, each degree is 4 minutes, is 48 minutes. So now we've calculated the moon lag of 48 minutes. We can now compute the position of the moon as a function of the distance of degrees from the western horizon. The moon lags east a cumulative 12 degrees daily, necessitating an additional 48 minutes of spin until the moon set each and every day. So if you take a look on page 7, you have a chart of the moon rise and the moon set for a number of different days for your perusal and enjoyment. But now we can start to understand the Rambam. The moon cannot be seen by the naked eye for about 2 days, as we said. 1 day at the end of the last month, 1 day at the beginning of this month. On the last day of the month, the moon is too closely positioned in front of the sun. The moon sets slightly before sunset. On the first day of the month, the moon is too closely positioned behind the sun. The moon sets slightly after sun. After the first day, the moon lags behind the sun and sets. By that time, the sun's light is weakened and the moon is visible as a thin crescent towards the west. And take a look at the schematics at the bottom. Now we're able to see the moon after sunset. This is the beginning of the Chodesh, and we can understand the Rambam when he says, if we see the moon on the 30th night of the month, at the close of the 29th day, we understand that the new month has begun, and we set Rosh Chodesh. And that day shall be the first of the new month, the previous month being made up of 29 days. If we do not see the moon on the 30th night, we automatically set the previous month as 30 days and begin the first day of the new month, and the next day, which is the 31st, and we begin the first day of the new month the next day, which is the 31st, since the previous moment. No month is longer than 30 days in the Jewish calendar. Therefore, there is no need to wait for witnesses to observe the moon after the 30th night. The day after the 30th month is always the first day of the next Jewish month.